The moment Aisha Rahman saw the paper on the polished glass table, her heart tightened in a way she could not explain. Sunlight poured through the towering windows of the high-rise boardroom, painting the city in gold, but something about that contract felt dark, heavy, and dangerously wrong. Her gloved hand froze mid-wipe, her eyes catching a single clause that made her breath hitch. This was wrong. Terribly wrong. And if she stayed silent, someone at this table was about to lose everything. If you believe that kindness still matters and that everyone deserves a second chance, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Midnight Tales. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Aisha had been cleaning offices since dawn, the quiet hours when powerful people were still asleep and the world belonged briefly to those who scrubbed its floors. She was a widow, raising a young son in a one-room apartment, her days measured in bus rides, aching hands, and whispered prayers that tomorrow would be kinder. The glass towers she cleaned were not symbols of success to her, they were reminders of a life she could see but never touch. That morning, she had been assigned to the executive floor, where every surface gleamed and every chair looked too expensive to sit on. She worked carefully, unseen, as she always did. At the center of the room sat Marcus Hale, a self-made millionaire known for bold deals and relentless ambition. The board members around him wore tailored suits and expressions sharpened by power, their attention fixed on the document waiting for his signature. This deal was supposed to secure his legacy, a massive expansion that promised dominance in the market by noon. Outside, the city moved on unaware, sunlight glinting off windows, cars flowing like rivers below. Inside, the air buzzed with confidence and urgency. As Aisha wiped the table near Marcus, her eyes drifted to the contract out of pure habit. She could read quickly, years of helping her son with homework had kept her sharp. One line stood out, buried deep in legal language, referencing liability transfers and silent clauses. Her chest tightened. She had seen something like this before years ago, when her late husband had been tricked into signing papers he did not fully understand, costing them their home. The memory burned. This contract was designed to shift catastrophic risk onto the signer after a set period, a trap hidden behind promises of profit. Her first instinct was fear. She was a cleaner, invisible by design. Speaking up could cost her job, the fragile stability she fought for every day. The men and women in that room lived in a different world, one where her voice did not belong. Yet the words echoed in her mind, louder than her fear, "This is wrong." Her hands trembled slightly as she continued wiping, her heart pounding harder with every second that passed. Marcus leaned forward, pen poised, confidence etched into his posture. Years of success had taught him to trust his advisors and move fast. He did not notice the cleaner's pale face or the way her eyes lingered on the page. To him, she was part of the background, like the hum of the air conditioner or the shine on the floor. The board members watched, some eager, some tense, all expecting the inevitable stroke of ink. Aisha felt time slipping away. Noon was approaching, and with it, a decision that could destroy a man who did not even know she existed. She thought of her son waiting for her at home, of the promise she had made to live with honesty even when life was cruel. Her voice felt trapped in her chest, but something stronger pushed it upward. She cleared her throat softly, barely audible, then again, louder, drawing startled glances. What followed was not a speech or a dramatic outburst, but a simple, trembling explanation. She pointed to the clause with her gloved finger, explaining in plain terms what it meant and how it could unravel everything after the initial gains. The room fell silent, shock rippling across faces that were not used to being interrupted by someone like her. Security shifted uneasily near the door. Aisha braced herself for humiliation, for being dismissed or escorted out. Marcus did not yell. Instead, he paused. Something in her expression, the raw fear mixed with sincerity, pierced through his certainty. He asked for a closer look, reading the line she indicated, then another, his brow slowly furrowing. Advisors leaned in, murmurs spreading as the truth surfaced like a crack in glass. The deal was not what it seemed. Hidden obligations, delayed penalties, and legal loopholes that would bleed the company dry within a year. By the time the sun reached its highest point, the signing was halted. The room buzzed with tension, then relief, then a dawning realization of how close disaster had been. Marcus sat back, his heart pounding now as hard as Aisha's had earlier. $500 million. That was the estimated loss he had narrowly avoided. $500 million saved by a woman who cleaned his office and expected nothing in return. Aisha was escorted out, not by security, but by an assistant who asked her to wait. Her hands shook as she stood in the hallway, convinced she would still be fired. Instead, Marcus emerged, the weight of near ruin still heavy on his face. He saw her clearly for the first time, not as a cleaner, but as a human being whose courage had altered his fate. He ordered a full review of her employment, her background, and her needs, not out of pity, but respect. That afternoon, while the city continued its bright, ordinary day, Aisha's life quietly shifted. Marcus ensured her job was secured permanently, with fair pay, benefits, and hours that allowed her to be present for her son. He funded her education in legal studies, recognizing the sharp mind that fear and poverty had tried to silence. He also established an internal ethics review inspired by her action, determined that no one under his leadership would ever be punished for speaking the truth. Near the end of the day, as sunlight softened and shadows lengthened, Aisha rode the bus home with a strange, unfamiliar feeling in her chest. It was hope. Not the fragile kind she clung to daily, but something solid, earned through bravery. She had not known she was saving a millionaire or $500 million. She had only known that staying silent would have betrayed who she was. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps stories of kindness reach people who need them most. And before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Comment the word kindness below if you believe that doing the right thing, no matter how small you feel, can change lives. As the sun finally dipped behind the skyline, Marcus stood alone in his office, staring at the city that almost watched him fall. Somewhere below, Aisha was walking into her modest home, greeted by her son's smile, unaware that her courage had already echoed far beyond that boardroom. In a world obsessed with power and profit, a poor cleaning lady had proven that integrity still mattered, and that sometimes, the greatest fortunes are saved by the quietest voices.